November 15th, 1325. Northern Italy. Two armies face each other across a field near the village of Zappolino. On one side, 32,000 soldiers from the city of Bologna, backed by the Pope himself. On the other side, 7,000 soldiers from the rival city of Modena, severely outnumbered, but confident. By nightfall, the battle would be over. 2,000 men would be dead. And the victorious army would march home carrying their prize. Not gold, not territory, not prisoners. A bucket, a wooden bucket. This conflict would become known as the War of the Bucket, and the bucket, the actual bucket, still exists today, displayed proudly in Modena like a war trophy. This is the story of how a piece of household equipment became the most famous spoil of war in medieval history, and how centuries of political hatred finally exploded into one of the largest and most absurd battles of the Middle Ages. To understand how a bucket ended up at the center of a war, you need to understand medieval Italy. In the 12th century, Italy wasn't a unified country. It was a patchwork of independent city-states, each with its own government, army, and ambitions. And they were divided, not by geography, not by language, by politics, specifically by the question, who has ultimate authority over Europe, the Pope or the Holy Roman Emperor? In 1176, Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa invaded Italy. He was defeated at the Battle of Legnano by the Lombard League, a coalition of cities supporting Pope Alexander III. Barbarossa retreated to Germany, but he left behind a political rift that would define Italy for the next 400 years. Two factions emerged: the Guelphs, who supported the Pope and papal authority; the Ghibellines, who supported the Holy Roman Emperor. Bologna, staunchly Guelph, a bastion of papal power, home to one of Europe's oldest universities, wealthy and influential. Modena, fiercely Ghibelline, dependent on imperial support, strategically important, and surrounded by Guelph enemies. The two cities were neighbors, natural rivals, and for decades they raided each other's territories, burned each other's farms, and occasionally beheaded each other's soldiers. In June 1325, Bolognese militiamen crossed into Modenese territory. They plundered farms, burned fields, fired crossbows at the city walls, not to siege, just to mock. In September 1325, Modena struck back. They captured Monteveglio, an important Bolognese fortress that guarded the border. This wasn't a raid. This was a serious military threat. Bologna demanded the fortress back. Modena refused, and Bologna decided, enough. By November, Bologna had assembled an army of 32,000 men. Modena, vastly outnumbered, called in reinforcements from their Ghibelline allies. The Lord of Milan, Azzone Visconti, sent a detachment of German mercenaries, professional soldiers, heavily armored, the military elite of the time. By the time the armies met, Modena had assembled 7,000 troops. Bologna had over 4 times that number. But numbers don't always win wars. On the afternoon of November 15th, 1325, the two armies clashed near the castle of Zappolino. Modena's force was smaller but professional, and Modena had a plan. Their commander, Passerino Bonacolsi, used deception. As the sun began to set, Bonacolsi sent a small detachment to feign a river crossing, drawing part of the Bolognese army away. Then he ordered a flanking attack. the German cavalry smashed into Bologna's flank. Within 2 hours, the Bolognese lines collapsed. Panic spread through the untrained militias. Fresh troops approaching from the rear collided with soldiers fleeing the front. By nightfall, the retreat had turned into a full rout. The Bolognese fled all the way back to the walls of their city, abandoning weapons, supplies, and dignity. Approximately 2,000 men died on both sides. After the battle, the victorious Modenese troops marched right up to the gates of Bologna. They didn't try to siege the city. Instead, they did something far more humiliating. And then, according to legend, they stole a wooden bucket from a public well just outside Bologna's city gate, an ordinary oaken pail used to draw water, and they took it home as a trophy. Now, here's the thing. Historians debate whether the bucket was actually the cause of the war or just a trophy taken afterward. The historical evidence suggests the bucket was taken after the Battle of Zappolino, a symbolic prize to rub salt in Bologna's wound. In January 1326, Bologna and Modena signed an armistice. Bologna got back the castles and territories, but they did not get back the bucket. Modena kept it. They proudly displayed it in the bell tower of their cathedral, the Torre della Ghirlandina, as a permanent reminder of their victory. The bucket became so famous that in the 17th century, Italian poet Alessandro Tassoni wrote a mock-heroic epic poem about it, called La Secchia Rapita, the stolen bucket. So what happened to the bucket? It's still there. To this day, the original bucket is on display in Modena's Palazzo Comunale, Town Hall. A replica hangs in the Torre della Ghirlandina. The Guelph-Ghibelline conflict continued for another 200 years. It finally ended in 1529, when Charles I of Spain invaded Italy. But the bucket? Still in Modena. Still a trophy. The War of the Bucket killed 2,000 people, and it was fought over politics, power, and centuries of hatred. But what we remember: the bucket, a wooden pail you could buy at any hardware store. That's history for you.